Thank you so much for coming here today. It's a true pleasure to collaborate here today together with SVG Venture Thrive and ICL Planet and bring this wonderful opportunity to the Israeli EdTech ecosystem. Today in the event, we're going to provide you with further information regarding the criteria, the challenge, and the multiple prize for the winning team. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dana Kedar, and I'm the director of GrowingIL. I'm the director of GrowingIL, which is the Israeli EdTech community. Up to date, we have around 500 EdTech startups and companies and 5,500 community members. It's a government initiative of the Israel Innovation Institute, Israel Innovation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Economy. And it was created out of the understanding that in order to create here a strong ecosystem in the EdTech field, we need to bring the ecosystem members together and providing them with a supporting platform for knowledge sharing, networking, and collaborations. Here you can see some of our partners from along the years. So how do we do that, and how do we provide them with the supporting platform? We have two strategic channels. The first one is ecosystem development, which includes creating activities, tools, and connections that bring value to our members, like connections to funding, connection to strategic partners and clients. And the second channel that we have is implementation or open innovation processes, where we're trying to bring together the high-tech access and the industry access by creating tailor-made open innovation processes that eventually will lead to joint POCs or joint collaborations. So that's like a small example. We've done things in the past with Bayer Crop Science, Adama, and the Ministry of Agriculture. And that's in a nutshell on GrowingIL, because it's not the main thing that you came here today. I just want to stress that in November, we have Israel's Agri-Food Week back in person in Tel Aviv, which is very exciting. We're very happy. We look forward to have a lot of people all over the world coming to see the front of innovation in the agri-food tech space with the two main conferences in the field, FoodTech.IL and AgriVest. So I invite you all to save the date in your calendars and bring delegations and people who are interested in what's going on here in this ecosystem. So without further ado, I'm happy to start with the content and invite John Hartnett, SEO at SVG Thrive Ventures, to say some opening remarks.
Thank you, Dana. And there's lots of space, lots of room up here, so don't be scared of us. Very nice to be here. Dana, thank you very much for the introduction, and also all the great work that GrowingIL do to build the ecosystem in the agri-food area. We're based in California. We see the results of a lot of that, and the results are a lot of really successful Israeli startup companies. We've engaged with Prospera over the years, and it's been great to see their success. I see Yuval down there from Autonomous Pivot, a great success story there, and also GreenEye. So I think the results of what's happening in Israel is tremendous. Our Global Impact Challenge is something that I think all of us have been aware of, the challenges in agriculture, but also more recently with COVID and the challenges around climate, the challenges around scarce resources. And we felt it was a great opportunity to create something that would really make a big impact, and a search for entrepreneurs from around the world that could solve some of the challenges. And the key challenges that we've focused on around the global impact is really driven around sustainability. Some of the challenges that we're dealing with in the world today is food security. How can we increase food security? How can we help in terms of soil health, biodiversity, and also in terms of reduction in greenhouse gases, or offsetting greenhouse gases? These are some of the key areas that are very important from our perspective. I don't think we would have been able to do this without the support of ICL and our partners. We're delighted to be able to work with the ICL Group and ICL Planet. And Raviv, thank you very much for joining us today and kind of lending your support for this important initiative. And Hadar, thank you for you and your team. It's been fantastic to work with Hadar over the course of the last year. We did some work in Europe last year, and delighted to be here. Believe it or not, this is my first time to Israel, my first time to Tel Aviv, and I think ICL and Hadar in particular are the reason we're here. I'd also like to mention some of our other main partners that are involved, and some of them have come here tonight. Kubota Corporation, who are one of the main corporations in the robotics automation tractor space. They're here tonight, and thank you for coming here. We've also partnered with BASF and Bayer Crop Science, and also Driscoll Berries. And I think the emphasis on this partnership of these companies coming together, some of the biggest names in agriculture, joining forces to address some of the challenges around sustainability, I think is a noble and really great thing that we're going to see unveil over the course of over the next 10 months or so. So well done for them for doing that. SVG Thrive, just to give you a quick intro on our side. I'm in California for the last 24 years, but I have an Irish accent, so just be careful. I'm actually originally from Ireland, based in California. We're an investment and innovation platform. We work with over 6,500 startups from around the world. Our Thrive Accelerator is ranked #1 in the world for agri-food. We've graduated about 90 startups. We've invested in 90 startups. And those companies have created over $1 billion in value and over 3,000 jobs, but at the same time solving some of the biggest challenges in agriculture in terms of reducing some of the challenges that we talked about earlier, but also in doing more with less. And why did global impact? I think, you know, as I'd mentioned earlier, the supply chain of food is the most important supply chain in the world. I think over the course of the last 2 years, we've all been bunkered down at our homes, but we've realized if something happens wrong or some issue in the supply chain, it's a pretty devastating effect. So how can we really drive innovation in the supply chain, but also how do we drive a sustainable supply chain? And this is what this is really, really all about. So we have a little video to show you here, just a little bit about what this is about, and hopefully we'll be able to play this for you now.
The urgency of climate crisis is more apparent than ever. Disruptive innovation is key to creating a more sustainable, prosperous, inclusive, healthy, and equitable future. We are already feeling the effects of climate change on a global scale, and combating the climate crisis requires our urgent and immediate attention. At Thrive, we are passionate about playing our part to spur the collective change needed to tackle this crisis, which is why we are launching the Global Impact Challenge. We are doing this in partnership with ICL and are also joined by some of the biggest names in agriculture and food, such as Bayer, BASF, Kubota, and Driscoll's. In alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the Thrive Global Impact Challenge is a worldwide search for the most innovative startups across 3 key themes: soil health and biodiversity, increasing food security, and reducing and offsetting greenhouse gas emissions. Climate action is a task for all of us, and disruptive innovation is key to accelerating global efforts to a net zero future for agriculture. As we strive to create a better future for all generations, we must put sustainability at the heart of everything we do. Together, we can build a better tomorrow by coming together to advance sustainability today.
Thank you so much, John. It's a true pleasure again having you here in Israel. Moving on to our next speaker, I'm happy to invite Raviv Zoller, President and CEO of ICL Group, to say some opening remarks.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to start by thanking our partners from Thrive and Dana, of course, for hosting us, and Danny, and our Hadar, who somebody just said she's a rock star, so I'll embrace that. I want to tell you a little bit about, okay. So I want to give you a short introduction to what ICL is and what sustainability means to us. and why we've embarked on a journey for sustainability and innovation. And the one thing I want you to take away from this short discussion that I'll take you through is that we are not taking this route of sustainability just because we're good citizens or because we have to for regulatory reasons. We're taking this journey because it's the largest business opportunity that's out there. And why is it important for you as startups? Because when I started investing and being part of startups 25 or 30 years ago, then our problem was to try to figure out what does the world need and what do we bring into the world to change it, to make a difference. And what sustainability has done is that the world has set an agenda of what it needs to achieve and how we need to change the world in order to save it, in order to put it in a better place. And a whole unique set of opportunities has arisen because there are so many problems to solve. And each one of those problems has a subset of many, many things that need to be done. Just in the world of dealing with GHG emissions, there's enough new ideation that needs to come out for the next full century. And I'm not exaggerating, okay? And we'll get back to that. But first, let's start with ICL. Who is ICL? So, we are a company that started close to 100 years ago. Actually, later this year, we're celebrating 100 years since the first concession of the Dead Sea, which means that the company is much older than the country. And I call our situation tradition meeting disruption, because the company was always a company that extracted minerals. It started from extracting minerals from the Dead Sea. But now, the way it looks at itself as a company that extracts minerals, not only from the Dead Sea, and uses those minerals in order to figure out how to deal with the main challenges of the world, which happen to be sustainability challenges. And everything gets examined in that spectrum of changing the world for sustainability. So, almost 100 years, our first quarter revenues were about $2.5 billion. We are the largest company in Israel today, which we're very proud of, but the problem with being the largest company in anywhere is staying there. So another thing that startups have a delightful challenge to meet is that they're starting from zero and they start beating others. When you're number one, then you have to change your mindset in a way that you need to disrupt yourself in order to stay where you are. Which means that if we don't move faster than everybody else, if we don't disrupt ourselves, if we don't find how to make our existing business obsolete and change it for the good, then somebody else will take our place. And it's a very challenging situation to be in. We have over 12,000 employees. We have over 50 production sites. We now have 52 production sites around the world in all of the continents. We have production sites in all of the continents except Africa, where we only have sales offices. We have businesses, local businesses in 30 different countries, and we sell to over 100 countries worldwide. It's a big and complex machine. And we have over 20 R&D centers, all over the world. So what are the things we deal with? The things we deal with are solutions for the future of agriculture, because we come from the fertilizer business, and fertilizer we're responsible. Who knows what is the actual contribution of fertilizers to agriculture? How much additional growth of crops is due to fertilizers? Does anybody know? 50%. 50%. Now, that means that if the US and Europe decide to put sanctions on Russia because of the war, and 20% less fertilizers reach the market, What does that mean for agriculture? It means a corresponding decline in the amount of food. And as we sit here and have our pizza and our cocktails, people are starving now. They're starving because in the US, everybody will be able to buy food, and in Europe, everybody will be able to pay the higher price of food. But in Somalia, people are starving, and in Sri Lanka, people are starving. And when everybody starts talking about it in the news, Biden will still be talking about Putin creating inflation and Putin creating world starvation, and he will be right, but that doesn't matter to people who are starving in Somalia. So this is very, very serious. This is very, very serious stuff in a world that today is starving. I can tell you, I just came back from a Fertilizers Association meeting, and I'm the head of the Sustainability Committee. And it is already known, just because of what has already happened, and it's going to get worse, that 7 million people are going to die of starvation. Why? Because there aren't fertilizer solutions. So what does that mean for a company like us? It means that I have to make sure, even beg each and every one of our employees, that every drop of additional fertilizer that we can produce is critical for people not to starve. That is a good place to be in when you want to create innovation, because then you have no choice. When you know that the lives of people depend on you, you have no choice. So it's for the future of agriculture, which we call innovative ag solutions. It's for food, where one of our new businesses is alternative proteins. You've all heard of alternative proteins. We have really unique technology. It's around fiber technology and textures, and we have chicken nuggets and hamburgers, and you name it, we have it. We're very proud of it. And in our industrial business, we're focused on the electric vehicle supply chain, energy storage solutions, et cetera. The ICL Planet Hub is focused on the more sustainable type traditional solutions, which are agriculture and food. I want to show you how the world looks from a financial perspective, from the financial world. What are analysts thinking about sustainability? And when analysts think of sustainability, they look at this, which is the cumulative amount of regulations coming into the world, and look into the exponential growth. And the latest exponential growth is in the past 2 years. This is the speed in which new regulation regarding sustainability is coming in. And if you look at the graph of the number of times that ESG-related issues are mentioned in conference calls of leading companies, I'm talking about S&P companies or publicly traded in Europe, the graph looks almost the same, because everybody's understanding that this is critical in today's world. Not just because you need to stay alive, but because this is what the world is willing to reward, pay for, get excited about, invest in, give loans to. If you want to succeed, you need to be sustainable, and you need to be more sustainable than your competitors. I suggest that if you're interested in sustainability, take a picture of this. By the way, I stole this from Barclays, so I'm going to give them credit. This is something you won't see, and this is the mapping of the importance of the various sustainability issues. And your takeaway, remember what I asked you to remember from my discussion. Your takeaway should be that if you look at the right-hand side, at the top right-hand side, you see things that have actually been there forever, like health and safety, of course, and product safety, and energy and water. But look at what has been added. The one thing that has been added as most important is greenhouse gas emissions. What does that mean? It means that startups that create value in the space of greenhouse gas emission control reduction will have the highest potential to create value. So whatever you're doing, whatever software you're developing, whatever fertilizer you're developing, whatever process you're developing, think of this. Everybody in the financial world currently agrees, is in consensus, that the most valuable thing that you can create is the reduction of GHG emissions. It's a crazy thing. Think about it. I mean, what is the reduction of GHG emissions? It's about changing from fossil fuel to renewable energy, right? It's mostly that. And getting the food chain to be more sustainable, okay? But if you think about it, the world knows less than what it needs to about what really matters. Because if you look at solar energy, sure, renewable solar energy is fantastic. But if you do the exact math, of the production, the energy used in production, in transportation, in future recycling of solar panels, there is no mathematical proof to this date that solar energy reduces the use of fossil fuels or is better than renewable energy, that is better than greenhouse gas emissions. I'm serious about what I'm saying. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not clear that it'll get there, because the technology is improving and the various materials that startups haven't yet created and the various processes that startups haven't created yet are not there, but they will be. And green hydrogen will become economical, and all kinds of things will happen. But at this specific time, there is no mathematical proof that solar energy is better than fossil fuels. It's strange, because everybody's telling us stories, but not all the stories are true. Why am I telling you this? Only because there's a magical thing called GHG emissions that anybody that can get to that space, get to that place, because that's the only thing that's changed here in the past 25 years. So anybody that can get into that space, even though it doesn't seem that way, is going to create tremendous value. And that's one of the reasons we're here. So sustainability is a journey. Why? The one single thing that causes the world to be slow at getting its targets in GHG emissions is not the lack of technology, it's not the lack of will, it's not politics, because politics will always be terrible and will always create chaos. It's measurement. Why? Because we don't know how to accurately measure our actions. If we did, if we knew how to look at a mirror and see how we are doing objectively relative to our partners, relative to our competitors, if somebody could rank us in an accurate way, we as a company get ranked in every possible ranking out there. And there are different types of rankings with different criteria, with different measurement systems. We get measured by everybody. You know why? Because each one has some merit. And by being ranked, we're doing two things. One, we're motivating our employees to be the best they can. We learn from each one of the rankings. And also, we learn specific ideas or specific methodology that is better than other rankings. Eventually, there's now TCFD. We're measuring accounting according to what is called TCFD. Soon there will be SEC guidelines that are coming out. So measurement is going to be created. And once measurement will be created, once we know how to measure each other, then suddenly sustainability will move much faster. Dealing with GHG emissions will move much faster. Today, a state, even the state of Israel, can say, we will be net zero in 2050. Okay. But then time goes by, nothing happens, nobody gets measured, so this is no way that progress can be made. So it's a journey because, first of all, everybody in the company has to understand what sustainability is. One of the first things we did in sustainability is we took a calculator that measures personal GHG emissions. We let people answer a bunch of questions about their personal lifestyles. And they got a reading, what is their personal carbon emission footprint? And suddenly it opened their eyes to things that they weren't aware of. I forget to take long showers. So I feel bad now every time I take a Seriously, I feel bad because I measured myself, and now I feel guilty about it. Before that, I didn't feel guilty about it. So, what happened here? Wait a minute. I'm missing a slide. Is it after? Okay, I'll go through sustainability and go ahead. This is how we want our.
My mom makes sure there are enough fruits, veggies, and cereals all over the world so no one ever goes hungry again. And grows burgers and chicken nuggets that taste like real meat but are not. My mom helps cars become greener. She works in a factory that collects sun rays so we can use them over and over again. My mom invents new things every day to protect us from fires and storms. She recycles even the most unrecyclable things. And helps create magical potions that make us healthy again. My mom works at ICL with other moms and dads from all over the world to make our planet a better place.
Thank you. I had one more slide. You're missing a slide? Okay, so I wanted to, I had one more slide, but it's on me. I should have checked. So one more thing I want to say is that, I mean, how does all that have to do with innovation and sustainability? How do they come together? You have to create a muscle for innovation. If the muscle doesn't exist, you have to practice, you have to work on it. And we've done quite a few things in order to be an innovative company. And two of the things that we've done, one, we created an internal platform that we call BIG, which allows each and every one of our employees to create an idea, to create ideas. And we promise to take that ideation, check it out, and in most cases turn it into a pilot or a project and create value. I want to tell you that in 3 years, we've created a run rate EBITDA of $140 million. This is at the end of the last quarter. $150 million of EBITDA just from internal ideas. And what you see today, our external accelerator, ICL Planet, is a big part of that. Because in order for us to be creative internally, then we need an ecosystem. So we have an external innovation ecosystem with academic institutions and with various institutes and with other partners. And we have our accelerator, which has an interaction with the ecosystem, the Israeli ecosystem and other ecosystems with partners. And we get a lot of ideas through the interaction, through piloting together, through investing in startups. And the complementary offerings of our internal innovation and the ecosystem are amazing. And I'm thankful for living and working in the state of Israel, where there are so many smart people with so many great ideas. And I'm very happy to be here and to meet some of you, and looking forward to working with you and to seeing all your beautiful ideas. By the way, we also have internal startups in ICL. I talked about a couple of them in our last event, and we're also proud of that. Why do we have internal startups? Because sometimes we have such a great idea, we don't want to waste any time, and we don't want the large organization with a bureaucracy to get in the way of innovation. So we let a smart group of people work towards building a separate business, and we finance and support, and we're going to be, I think, very happy with the results. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it very much. Remember, sustainability, big opportunity. Greenhouse gas emissions in the front, and fantastic to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Raviv. So let's move on to the main part of the event and understand what is the global challenge impact. What are the process? What are the criteria? What are the prices? This is why you all came here today. So I'm happy to invite Hadar Sutovsky, VP External Innovation at ICL Group, and Danny O'Brien, Managing Director EMEA, and Global Programs at SVG Thrive, to talk about this challenge.
Dana, thank you very much. Thank you very much for hosting this event. It's incredible. The partnership with you guys is brilliant. And we are very thankful also for the great contribution of GrowingIL for this amazing ecosystem. Yes, yes. Thank you, John and Danny, at last in Tel Aviv. Wow, I'm so happy to have you here.
We're here. We're delighted to be here. Like John, it's my first time in Israel as well. Arrived last night, and great to see you've got some Irish whiskey on show here tonight, so I feel right at home. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. And Raviv, thank you, and the ICL team that is here. Thank you for the confidence. Thank you for the support, and thank you for letting us fly. And all of you guys that, again, in June, we gathered here today, and you are the people that make everything happen. So thank you for showing up for this event. Thank you for showing up for ICL Planet and for me. Thank you very much. Now applause for you guys. So Danny, hi.
Great to see you, Hadar.
You too. Last time it was 3 weeks ago in the Netherlands.
Absolutely, yeah. We're good friends at this point. We've been working together for a year or more, and but first time meeting each other only a few weeks ago. So it's nice to be back in person.
Great, great. So we are already working together like a year. Last year we launched the European challenge, and actually the winner was an Israeli agri-tech company. To that. The challenge last year was great, and I saw super talented entrepreneurs, and the finalists were amazing. So I know that John told us a little bit in a nutshell about SVG Ventures and about Thrive, but I think it's about time you tell us a little bit about yourself. And a little bit more, please elaborate on Thrive and the platform and your approach. We would love to hear that.
Yeah, sure, happy to. And we have a couple of slides here. I don't have a slide about myself, which is probably a good thing, but a quick overview. I grew up in Ireland on a small farm, but not far from Dublin, which is a big city, of course. And kind of grew up in the farming lifestyle, in agriculture, spent my summers milking cows, which was good fun. After college, I went to London, to the consulting big city world, moved to New York to work in venture and with startups. I started 2 startups of my own, and then I found my way back into venture, kind of running an accelerator for food and ag tech companies. And I guess about a year and a half ago, I got connected with John Hartnett. And, you know, I'd known about SVG for a number of years, but he was telling me about his vision for the next 10 years and what we want to do in Europe. And it was a really exciting opportunity for me. So I came on board a year and a half ago and pretty quickly met yourself, Hadar, and the ICL team. And so I'm now the managing director of EMEA for SVG Ventures. I'm based in Dublin today, but travel around the region now that we can travel around again. In terms of us, John touched on it earlier, but this is our ecosystem wheel here, where we beyond just investing in startups, which is core to what we do, we try to bring the whole ecosystem together. And I think that that's something that Israel does really, really well, actually, from what we've learned over the last few days and the last year. So not only do we invest in startups, we work with corporates like ICL, like Kubota, like Bayer, BASF, Driscoll Berries, and many more, about 40 corporate clients overall. And we help them with their unmet needs to identify startups, to facilitate partnerships, to co-invest alongside them. We work directly with farmers and farming networks because they're often the end users of many of these technologies. Sometimes startups don't appreciate the difficulties of selling to those groups. So they're an important part of our ecosystem, and we spend a lot of time listening to them. We invest alongside many well-known investors. There's only a short snapshot of some of them here, but some Israeli ones as well. We work with governments, we work with research institutions like Stanford, Purdue, and many others. And we try to bring this whole ecosystem together at major events. And we've done a number of these over the years. With Forbes Media, we'll be doing another one at the end of this challenge to bring everything together. And we've built this over about 10 years, John and the rest of the team have. And I'm focused on building this out more in the EMEA region. So excited to do more in the region, and obviously Israel is an important part of that for us.
Wow, amazing. And we are also happy to hear about you. It's interesting. So when it comes to impact and sustainability, what are you really seeing in your ecosystem?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the theme of the event obviously today. There's, we're seeing it across this ecosystem here, if you like. There's really three things that stand out for me. One is the farming networks. As I mentioned, they're often the most important, and they're the end users here. We do a survey on the voice of the farmer every year in the US and Canada. And, more and more so we're seeing that they're looking for sustainable technologies. And it's not just because there's no water in California, they got to, manage these expectations. There's no labor. It's actually about doing good. And policy is driving a lot of this as well, especially in Europe, I would say.
So it's kind of a survey?
We do a survey every year, interviews with early adopters on farms to really dig into what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and what are startups not doing, because startups sometimes can be technically heavy and they don't appreciate what a farmer does every day, how their cash flows work. So it's really important to kind of close that gap, I would say. And then in addition to that, I mean, corporates, and Raviv talked about this, are really moving from talk to action. And I think the last 2 years of COVID has really shone a light on our food supply chain, the fragilities of that, the Ukrainian war now as well. I mean, you put it pretty importantly, with starkly of the challenges there. And it's gone beyond a PR thing for corporates. It's essential to business, but it's essential for the world and population as well. So it's a real sea change in our ecosystem. Yeah, for sure.
Right. It's not only, let's say, compliance stuff, and it's not about being mandatory. Yeah. It's part of the business. Yeah,
exactly. And the other aspect, I mean, startups are they drive all this innovation, well, not all this innovation, but a lot of the innovation. And something we do every year, in addition to our farmers reports, is the top 50 in agri-food tech. So we map the top 50 companies in ag tech and food tech. And we really look for those who are, there's a few criteria. There's the amount of funding they've raised, the traction, how much they've scaled in the last year. So we're looking at startups and scale-ups here. And there's 3 Israeli companies on the list this year, which is great. But this year, and I have a slide just to show you here, we have the top 10 sustainability companies of the top 50, which for the first time ever. And many of these names you probably recognize across various sectors of the agri-food value chain who are disrupting that and doing that in a sustainable way. So, we're seeing impact and the potential for impact right across our ecosystem. And really the Global Impact Challenge for us is a great way of bringing that all together, expediting that, and really ensuring that we solve these challenges together.
Yep, hopefully we find some really, really good and potentially good investment and potentially good technologies out there.
For sure. And I mean, that's why we're partnering with you guys. And when I have a couple of questions for you, Hadar, as well. I don't want this to be one-way traffic here. Questions for the rock star over here. In terms of impact for you and for ICL, I mean, Raviv gave a good example there of what it means for ICL and why you're investing in this space. But when it comes to ICL Planet, What does that look like for you in terms of impact and the kind of the areas that you're most focused on?
Wow, I'm so thankful for this question because, right, Raviv talked about ICL and the goals that we are putting to ourselves and the KPIs that are really implemented into our business and the transition that this organization is going through. So it's starting to be a state of mind. Okay, everybody in the organization has its own mindset of impact and sustainability. But apart from that, and apart from being an organization that now is responsible and not washing away its responsibility, ICL Planet as the vehicle of this organization has put its own goals as well. So, right, we are looking at agriculture and we are looking at food tech technologies, especially in places that we are active and that are strategic to us. But on top of that, what we did is put a layer of impact and impact strategy. So each one of our portfolio company will go over a process of understanding what is their own, according to their own goals, what would be their own impact strategy. We are trying to move it into their business model. So imagine a startup that is working with us later on when they go for a follow-on round, showing their investor deck. So it's not only the ask, and it's also not only the need, and it's not only the business model. Now they can show actually what are their goals in terms of impact, how are they intending to measure it, and when and how are you going to get their goals. So that's how we see impact for ICL Planet in our portfolio.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And I guess it separates those companies from, you know, because some companies want to be perceived as being sustainable and impact driven, but it really is an acid test there for who's really, you know, means it and wants to do the right thing. And ICL Planet is coming up on its 1 year anniversary. I'm sure there's been a lot of challenges, especially in a COVID world, you know, semi-world. What have been some of the learnings for you, or what have you learned over the last year, and what does the next year look like for you and for ICL Planet?
Wow, it's amazing. You know, we've been here, like, not here, but in Tel Aviv, having cocktails on a rooftop exactly a year ago. It was June 19th. And we just came out from lockdown and everybody was so happy to meet each other, but a year has passed. And in that year, I have upgraded the team. Now we have a team of winners, a team of competent and talented people. We have our newcomers here, Natanya Slager and Rosa Aminov, our new, here they are. Applause to Rosa and Natanya. A great, talented team. So that's one of the things that was very important to me, to build a team that can really go there and bridge the gap for this huge organization, but keep the agility of ICL Planet. And then during the year, we have invested in 2 startups in the area of food tech. Now we are working on 3 more. So I think we are really, really starting to kick off. It was a year of a journey for us. We kicked off, but we hit the ground running. So this is one of the things. I think, what have I learned, right?
Yeah. Share with the audience.
What have I learned? I learned that there is a place for a vehicle like ICL Planet. There is a place, there is a need. I mean, there are a lot of investors here and in the ecosystem and out there, but the offering of not only be the ticket for money, but also be able to give the startups and the entrepreneurs an opportunity to collaborate with a corporate, this is huge, really. This is huge. The value proposition is even better. So that's what I learned. I learned that my model was not fake, was not outreach, was not like a long shot. It's real, and we really need it.
Well, congratulations. That's really impressive, and excited to see these 3 new companies as well. It sounds like there's a lot of momentum. I guess we're we're here to launch the Global Impact Challenge.
Yeah, I was
and,
meaning to ask you. I mean, what about the challenge? Everybody is here, and we are like having this conversation. So, what about the challenge? Tell us a little bit more details. Let's get into timelines. Let's get into themes and prices.
Well, let's do it. That's what the people are here for. So, in terms of the Impact Challenge, John touched on the themes here earlier. You can see we've got 3 core themes. The overall theme is advancing a sustainable future for agri-food, and things like soil health, biodiversity is super important for us. Increasing food security, again, given the backdrop of the situation in Ukraine, this is more important than ever. And then reducing and offsetting greenhouse gas emissions. And again, Raviv talked about how important that is, and the opportunity, not just to do good, but to really create major outcomes here. So I won't go through them all, but you can see the different categories there across the three different themes that we're looking for. So I hope, and I've spoken to a few of the startups here today, so hope to see many Israeli applications coming through. We obviously had a winner in GrowingIL last year, so no pressure. And another one, and Raviv talked about, is the measurement with carbon. That's a really interesting space because there's a lot of carbon solutions out there, but measuring and validating that space is a real opportunity, I think. So I don't want to pick on one, but it's one that I think is super important, you know. And then in terms of timelines, so it's live now. You can go to our website. We're going to have a QR code at the end here where we can direct you to that. But it's live now. This is the official launch where applications are open. They'll close on August 26th, but we'll be reviewing them on a rolling basis. So get them in early and you have a better chance of being seen. In September, we're going to review the applications. The finalists, we'll be selecting the finalists in October. We're also going to do some mentoring with the finalists to help them with their pitch, but also telling them their impact story as well, of how they can better communicate that, measure what they do, communicate it, and therefore leverage more impact investment type funding as well. It's going to culminate in a large event in Silicon Valley, the Thrive Forbes Sustainability Summit, where we'll see you all back there on the West Coast. Where we're going to bring our ecosystem together. We're going to have delegations from around the world, and we're going to award the winners as well. So we're going to have 6 finalists, 2 from each theme from around the world, who will come to Silicon Valley. They'll pitch on stage, and then we'll announce the overall winner on the day. So the finalists, it's a great opportunity to get exposure, PR, etc. And then the winner will get investment from ourselves, a place on our accelerator program, possible investment from our partners, including ICL potentially if they fit your themes. A number of other benefits as well, and including a prize with Imagine Impact, an impact strategy program which is sponsored by ICL. I think this is really important. It's about I think it's a 6 to 8 week program to help the winning startup kind of take their startup back to basics, looking at the impact that they're creating, measuring that, coming up with a scorecard, and then extrapolating out if they got investment, if they scaled, what could the impact be? And I think telling that story is hugely important. So thank you for sponsoring that prize. I think it's really important. Yep.
I thought it's important. That's why I suggested it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a challenge. I'll go on to the last slide where we have a QR code, and we're happy to answer questions. But before, I guess we do have one more question for you. Hadar is going to be one of the judges to select the winners, so you have to impress her as well tonight. But I wanted to ask, every investor looks for different things in startups. When you are looking at impact-driven startups, what are things you look for in those companies or those founders?
Okay, that's easy to answer. First, because there are 3 characteristics of impact investments. The first one is intentionality. The second one is you as an investor should have the expectation to get return on your investment. And the third one would be measurement and committing to report your measurements. So these are the 3 characteristics of impact investment in general. Now, when I look at startups, I mean, for sure, I would look at the business model, the team, number 1, business model, differentiation. But in terms of impact, I would look for the intention, the intentionality. Sometimes I'm also a yoga instructor, and intentionality is a huge part of coming into the mode of starting the session of your yoga. First of all, your intentions. In impact, it's the same. First of all, you need to intend to make a positive, measurable environmental impact. And this is what I'm looking for.
Well, we can't top that. I think you've captured it very well, and I'll pass over to the invitation to apply now. Applications are open, so we'd welcome as many as possible from Israel, as I say, and yeah, it was a pleasure.
Maybe we
talking
can
about this with
open
you.
the floor for some questions. If there are some questions about the challenge, we're
Absolutely.
here. Danny is here. If you want,
Questions?
yeah.
Guys, I'll go over to you with the microphone.
Tough crowd.
Hello, I've seen that it only seed and round day companies that are eligible to apply for the challenge. Either a place for researchers in academia to apply if they're not a startup.
I guess our core for the challenge is seed to Series B. Now, it depends on what type of company you are. So, for example, some of the biotech companies, it takes them longer to come to market, whereas more software-driven companies can have more traction to be at a seed stage, let's say. So we're looking for companies where we can have a clear view into what the product is that they're doing, understand the impact that they're creating, and what that could look like if they scale as well. So it's hard to draw lines with so many different technologies, but that's the core of what we're looking for. So maybe you can make some good progress before August 26th and be at the right stage.
But we are open to hear about your academic research, for sure.
Excuse me. Do you think that intellectual property is essential to take part in this challenge?
I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat it?
Intellectual property, the IP. What stage it's needed to be already acquired by the company?
I mean, it's one of the factors that we look at when we're evaluating these companies. We look at things like the team, the product, the market size, traction, and impact, of course, is the most important one. So it really comes down to the product, and IP definitely helps. It's not required, but it definitely helps. So if you can build a story around how you're going to create a moat or defend against future entrants without IP, then that's fine. But just as long as you have a compelling story around that or strategy of how you're going to do that, and IP is obviously a great way to defend or build a moat.
Is it on? Okay. If we're about to disrupt one of your portfolio companies, would you still invest?
Which one?
Plenty. You put it in the middle, actually.
I mean, it depends.
Not really, but
We obviously have, we've about 90 plus investments to date. So we definitely have some companies who operate in similar areas, but often in different geographies. So it would be, first of all, this challenge is open to founders around the world, no matter what our portfolio is. So we're going to pick the best companies. And we've a panel, an independent panel of judges like Hadar who are going to make these decisions. So it's not just going to be us making the decision. It's something that we would look at closer to the time when it comes to making the investment of what that looks like.
More questions? So thank you so much. I think we reached the end of the event. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed today and found the information provided here today beneficial, and we're looking forward to seeing your applications as part of the Global Impact Challenge. So don't hesitate. We will provide you with the information here today afterwards in the social media. And let's continue the fun outside with fabulous drinks and sweets. Thank you so much.